Back at the camp, Scooby and Shaggy were sitting at a table, finishing off their last helping of ribs. Janie couldn't help but smile at the two clowns. "You guys like to eat, huh?" she asked. Shaggy smiled back. A few minutes later, Fred, Daphne, Velma, Heather, and Johnny came back. "Hey, you guys! Like how the place looks?" Shaggy asked. "It's great. This summer is going to be fun," Daphne said. "Cool. You guys, you need to try those ribs. They're fantastic," Shaggy said. "With hot sauce," Scooby-Doo said, before dousing a rib with hot sauce before chewing the meat clean off the bone. "No thanks. We're gonna go down and take the lake for the swim. What do you say, guys?" Fred asked. Alright. I'm dying for a tan," Daphne said. "Janie, would you like to go swimming with us?" Shaggy asked. "Yeah, sure," Janie smiled. "This summer is going to be the best yet ever," Scooby-Doo barked to himself. About a half an hour later, nearly everyone was by the lake, either swimming, soaking up in the sun, and simply hanging out. Shaggy swam around the lake, while Scooby-Doo sat on shore with beach chairs, sunglasses, and a tanning board. Velma and Daphne played volleyball with Tawny, Heather, and Ellen, while Fred and Johnny tossed a football back and forth. Clark, Justin, and Tom were in the water as well, but Wayne just sat there alone on the shore, away from the water, reading a book. Tom got out of the water and walked over to Wayne. "Come on, man, get in the water," he said. "I don't swim," Wayne said. "Dude, come on, it's not that big of a deal." "Did you hear about what this Jason people's to do if they get in this lake? I don't know, to swim? They'll pull them right down with him," Wayne said. "Okay," Tom said, turning around. "Might want to lay off the drugs a little, bro." He went on the edge of the dock and jumped back in the lake. Janie jumped in too. She swam out into the open. There were no one else that was at. Little did she or anyone else knew that this lake was a spot where young Jason Voorhees had drowned in so many years ago. After a few seconds, Janie began to feel a little uneasy. There was something evil about the water. She felt something move past her leg. She was already starting to get nervous now. Suddenly she felt something grab a hold of her ankle. She shrieked and jolted as a menacing figure arose from the water. It was laughing Shaggy. "Shaggy!" she exclaimed, embarrassed. Shaggy couldn't stop laughing. "Well, I gotcha," he said proudly. Janie lightly punched him in the arm. "That wasn't funny," she said, clearly trying to hold back her smile. "Oh, I'm sorry, like I had to," Shaggy said, struggling to breathe through his coughing. "Hey, Scoob, it worked," he said, and to the shore waving his arm to his dog. Scooby-Doo let out his usual silly laugh. A couple of other counselors laughed as well. On shore, Heather sat down on the lake to take a quick break from the volleyball game. Johnny decided to come over and sit next to her. She gave him a quick kiss as she sat down. "Hey, look, it looks like you got some attention," Johnny said, indicating Wayne, who was sitting far away. When Heather turned to look at him, he suddenly moved his eyes away. "He's been staring at you like that ever since we got here," Johnny said. "No, he hasn't," Heather said. "He has to. I've seen the way he looks at you. I think Wayne's got a little crush." Heather shot at Wayne another glance and then noticed them back quickly again, before shifting his eyes back to his book. Heather smiled at Johnny. "Wayne does not stare at me. If he liked me, he would be able to tell. Just because he asked me out that one time, it doesn't mean he's obsessed with me," she insisted. "Okay, babe, think what you want," Johnny said, before kissing Heather on the cheek. Wayne looked back at Heather before shutting his book and standing up. Johnny's suspicions were confirmed as Wayne started to walk over towards him and Heather. "Oh geez, he's coming over," Johnny smiled. Heather wasn't sure what to think. She felt very awkward as Wayne walked up to her. "Hey, Heather," he said shyly. "Hi, Wayne," Heather said back. Wayne and Johnny made eye contact for a brief second before Wayne was focused his attention back on Heather. "You look, pretty today," he said awkwardly. "Oh, thank you," Heather said, just as awkward. "Yeah, I was reading this book, and the main character girl reminds me of you. She's very beautiful and gracious. Such a strong person." Heather was at loss for words. She forced a smile as that she could all think to do. Hey, say Wayne, do you want to go grab a couple of sodas out from the cooler? Johnny quickly said. Wayne looked at slightly deflated. Yeah, sure, he said. Thanks, dude, Johnny said, as Wayne walked over across the beach. Heather signed relief. Thank you. He was starting to freak me out, she said to Johnny. You know, I was kind of feel bad for the guy. I mean, you're the hottest girl here, Johnny said. Heather smiled and let out a giggle as they kissed again. That night back near the cabins, everyone gathered around the campfire to listen to Scooby-Doo and Shaggy recount one of the gang's mysteries. So then the vampire ghoul said, I want blood, Shaggy said in a spooky voice, as Scooby imitated the visage of the vampire. And I said, like, no way is someone vampire gonna suck my blood, Shaggy lied. So I punched him in the face, and he jumped back onto the golf cart with Scooby and Scooby-Dum and drove away. Shaggy stared at Janie the whole time while he was telling the false tale. He was obviously lying to make her think he was cool. She smiled and continued the story. Later on, Scoob and I fought like blood-sucking fiend and unmasked him every single-handedly. It turns out it was Lisa's uncle, Leon, the whole time, Shaggy said. Yeah, Uncle Leon, Scooby agreed. That old vamp tail doesn't scare me for a second, Shaggy said, popping his collar. Is that really how it happened, Fred? Heather asked. All eyes were on Fred now. He glanced at Shaggy and noticed a desperate look on his face, just to play along with the lie. Yeah, that was pretty much that, he said. That is so cool, Janie said, smiling at Shaggy. Like you could say that one thing. Scoob and I do the time of danger to keep our cool, Shaggy said. All right, great story, guys, Johnny said. Everyone but Wayne, of course, clapped. Scooby and Shaggy sat down next to Janie. Okay, who's next? Johnny asked. No one said anything. Come on, somebody is going to have a scary story to tell, he said. Johnny, why don't you tell them the story you know? Heather asked. Well, what story? Fred asked. Oh, it's the best. It's about a babysitter. It's really creepy. Come on, Johnny, tell it, Heather said. Okay. This story is called The Clown Doll, Johnny started, slightly lowering his voice. A few counselors laughed a bit at the ridiculous title, putting his hands to silence the crowd. Johnny continued. There was a babysitter, right? And she was called in to look after these kids the whole night. Well, their parents went to a big business party, and then after the babysitter had put the kids to bed. Wait, I know. The phone rang and there was a stranger on the other line, right? Justin rudely interrupted. No, let me finish, Johnny said, annoyed. Everyone listened again as Johnny continued the story. As I was saying, he put the kids to sleep and then went to the parents' den to watch some TV. But as she tries to watch it, she can't help but feeling disturbed by the little clown statue in the corner. It was horrifying. The clown absolutely had a menacing look on his face. Some of the other counselors started to tense up. Scooby and Shaggy weren't sure they wanted to hear the rest of the story. Johnny continued. At first, the little girl tried to ignore it, but the look of the clown was so creepy, it was starting to really freak her out. So she decided to call her parents of the kid and said, The kids are in bed, but is it okay if I switch rooms to watch TV? The clown statue is freaking me out. There was a slight pause before the dad answered, Take the kids and get out of the house, now. The babysitter asked why, and the dad said, Because we don't own a clown statue. Oh, that's what most of the counselors said. Shaggy's teeth started to chatter and was slightly shaking, but he pretended to ease up once Janie noticed how scared he looked. The girl was now terrified, and when she turned around, she could see the clown statue standing right in front of her, holding a knife, Johnny said. Scooby-Doo began to look afraid himself. It's just you and me now, the clown said, but soon enough it'll just be me, Johnny said. The girl screamed and the clown chopped her into pieces. Zoinks! Shaggy screamed. Everyone's attention turned to him and Scooby-Doo hugging each other while shivering with fear. Calm down, guys. It's just a story, Johnny said. Yeah, I know, but it's just the way you told it, Shaggy whimpered. Rah! Scooby added. Great story, man, Fred said. Well, it's getting late, you guys. I'm gonna turn in before I drop, Johnny said. Okay, good night, Velma said. Oh yeah, and Wayne, one more thing. Watch out for Jason, Johnny taunted. Wayne said nothing. The other counselors laughed at him, though. Later that evening, everyone was in their cabins preparing for bed. In Fred, Daphne, Justin, and Tom's cabin, "Do you think Johnny's giving Wayne too much of a hard time?" Daphne said, as she brushed her hair in front of a mirror. He's just goofing around," Fred said. "Yeah, I bet Wayne doesn't even really believe in Jason," Justin said. "Well, I don't know, man. He looks stupid enough," Tom added. "Well, that's not nice," Daphne said, turning to the boys. "What if it were you guys that were afraid? You wouldn't want anyone teasing you," she said. "Gee, sorry, Mom," Tom mocked. "Let's just go to sleep. We really shouldn't be talking about monsters before bed," Fred said. Without another word, Fred and Daphne climbed onto the bed on one side of the cabin near their bed, while Justin and Tom took the bunk bed on the other side. In Shaggy and Scooby's cabin, "Like, wow, what a spooky story," Shaggy said as he unfolded the sheets. "Raggy?" Scooby said. "Yeah, Scoob? Do you believe in Jason Voorhees?" "Do I believe in Jason Voorhees? What?" "Do you believe in Jason Voorhees?" Scooby said clearer. "Oh, Jason Voorhees. Sorry, Scoob. That's kind of hard to, understand you sometimes," Shaggy chuckled. Scooby just gave his best friend an annoyed expression. "No way, Scoob. Like Janie told me, those reports about Jason existing have been filed as inconclusive," Shaggy said. "Janie?" Scooby asked. "Yeah. What a girl, huh? She's almost even prettier than Crystal was," Shaggy said, lying on the bed and looking up at the ceiling. Over in Velma and Eileen and Tawny's cabin, while Velma was doing her bed stretches on the floor, Ellen was polishing her toenails, while Tawny waited patiently pacing around the room. "God, I'm so bored," Tawny complained. "Why don't you try going to sleep then?" Ellen suggested. "I can't sleep. I'm wide awake." Velma finished her stretches and stood up. "Well, what do you think it could make you tired?" she asked Tawny. "Oh, I don't know." "Hey, why don't we go for a midnight swim?" Tawny suggested. "What?" Ellen asked. "Yeah, it'll be fun. The water is even better at night." "I don't know, Tawny. It's pretty late," Velma said. "Come on," Tawny pushed. "I can't." "Do you not see my nails?" Eileen said, pointing at her toes. "But it'll be no fun if I go by myself," Tawny whined. "Eileen's right, Tawny. Just try to go to sleep. We can go swimming in the morning," Velma said. Tawny sighed as Velma climbed into bed. "Fine," Tawny said, grabbing her swimsuit. "I guess I'll go by myself." "Have fun," Eileen said, as Tawny walked out the door. Outside in the dark, after changing into her swimsuit, Tawny walked alone through the trees to find her way to the lake. At night, the trees looked even more demented during the day. Maybe it wasn't a good idea for Tawny to be out here. Suddenly she heard a noise, like a rustle of leaves. "Hello? Is anyone there?" she called softly. She looked around but saw nothing. Must have been the wind or something. She kept walking, but she just couldn't shake the feeling that she was being followed. Then something sounded like breathing. Tawny just wanted to turn back now, but she'd gone too far, and she could already see the lake. "Okay, 1, 2, 3, she said. With that said, she started sprinting through the woods. For some reason, she thought she could hear footsteps following her. After she finally got out of the trees and walked onto the beach, she looked back towards the woods to see no one. She let out a sigh of relief. "I'm losing my mind," she said, putting her hand to her forehead. She then walked towards the dock of the lake and jumped in. "Ah," she sighed as she emerged from the cool water night. She swam a little round for a bit without a care in the world. It felt quite freeing to be able to swim alone in the lake at night. Little did she know that not far from shore behind the trees, someone was watching her. She backstroked through the water until she felt that something moved past her leg. She stopped and looked around again, but nothing was there. But if nothing was there, why did she get the feeling she was being watched the whole time? "Deep breaths. Just take deep breaths," she said to calm herself down. She breathed in and out slowly. Once she calmed down, she made a small giggle at how silly she was being. There is nothing to be afraid of, she thought to herself. She began backstroking through the lake again and looked up at the starry sky. The sounds of crickets chirping and the coolness of the water made Tawny feel very relaxed. Those guys don't know what they're missing, she said out loud. Thump. Tawny then gasped as her head hit something hard. She sat up straight in the water and realized she just backstroked her head into the dock. Oh God, I'm so stupid, she said to herself, slightly chuckling. But then out of nowhere, her hand was grabbed by two strong ones. She struggled helplessly as the hands tied her arm down and with the dock with the rope. An unknown monster then grabbed her by the top of her head and held it underwater. She couldn't breathe. She struggled and struggled but couldn't get free, and being tied to the dock made it impossible for her to swim away. As she tugged and tugged with one hand, the other person holding her down, she started to lose more energy as she flopped around. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The last thing she saw when she looked up in the water was the murdering wearer of hockey mask of Jason Voorhees. Tawny, Tawny, Velma called. That morning when Ellen and Velma woke up, Tawny was nowhere to be found. As they stood outside their cabin calling her name, the other counselors started to emerge from theirs. Where could she be? Ellen asked Velma. Johnny walked up to the two of them. What's going on? He asked. It's Tawny. We can't find her anywhere, Velma said. Really? What happened? She said that she wanted to go for a swim last night and left the cabin. Maybe she's over there now. I was just over there with Ellen. We can't find her there either. Fred and Daphne walked over to Velma now. Do you think she might have ran off like Sam and Ed did? Fred asked. Maybe. I don't know. Didn't she seem like she wasn't afraid or anything? Velma said, rubbing her chin. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy came out of their cabins. Like, is breakfast ready yet? Shaggy asked as they walked over to the rest of the gang. Shaggy, have you guys seen Tawny this morning? Johnny asked. Tawny? No, not me. Have you, Scoob? Ruh-uh, Scooby barked. This is all very strange. 3 disappearances in 2 nights, Velma said. Later on, the gang the camp counselors gathered around. I've got some bad news for you guys. Tawny is missing, Johnny announced. The counselors started murmuring amongst each other. We don't know what happened to her. This morning she was just gone, Ellen said. I'm telling you people, it's Jason, Wayne said. Look, Wayne, enough with the frickin' Jason Voorhees, Johnny commanded. This is serious. Johnny, yelling isn't going to help us find Tawny, Heather said. Maybe we should all go looking for her, Daphne suggested. Daphne's right. There's a strength in numbers. Come on, guys, Fred said. Scooby and Shaggy, you guys search over in the woods. Fred and Daphne and I will look in the sporting area, while the rest of you guys search around here, Velma said. All the counselors nodded in agreement. Heather and I will check over by the lake, Johnny said. A few minutes later, everyone was out looking for Tawny. Scooby, Shaggy, and Janie were in the woods, while Tom, Justin, Clark, and Wayne looked for the cabins. Daphne, Fred, Velma, and Ellen looked for the activity area. Johnny and Ellen were down by the lake, but all with no luck. In the woods, Scooby sniffed the ground and flowers, while Shaggy spent most of his time staring at Janie while she searched. Where could she be? Tawny, Janie called. Like maybe she did run away? I mean, that story of Jason Voorhees guy really creeped me out too, Shaggy said. I hope you're right, Janie said. Tawny, Tawny, she called again. There was no one there. As Scooby kept sniffling plants, he noticed a small raccoon sitting nearby. Huh? Raccoon? Scooby said to himself. He started to growl as the raccoon looked in this direction. Scooby proceeded to chase after the animal, but with his belligerency, he caught it and Shaggy and Scooby's and along with Janie's attention. Scoob, wait, stop, Shaggy pleaded, as the raccoon ran past its legs. Instinctively, Scooby ran in that direction as well, but when he did, he knocked Shaggy and Janie over onto the ground, on top of each other. Janie laughed at this. Shaggy felt a little bit embarrassed. He had to land on top of her smile as it was very sweet and savory. Shaggy couldn't help but moodily smile back. Like, sorry about that, he said, very gentlemanly. It's okay. Your dog's got a lot of energy, Janie smiled. They looked into each other's eyes and continued smiling. Shaggy once again fawned over how beautiful Janie was. You know, you do have really nice eyes, Janie said. Thanks, you too. The longer they stared, the more they realized how instructive the whole thing was for both of their parts. I guess we should get up now, Janie suggested. Yeah, here, let me help you up, Shaggy said, getting off of her and leading her a hand. Thanks, she smiled softly. Finally, Scooby-Doo came back with no raccoon. Right, rost it, Scooby groaned. Like, Scoob, how many times do I have to tell you? You can't catch a raccoon, man, Shaggy said. Janie giggled. We should head back to camp now. Tawny's not here, she said. Yeah. Over by the batting cages, Fred, Daphne, Velma, and Ellen continued searching. Well, it doesn't look like she's over here, Fred said. Why would she just suddenly disappear? Daphne asked. What if Wayne's right? Ellen said. The others looked baffled. What do you mean? Velma asked. What if it's Jason Voorhees? What if Tawny's dead? Relax, Ellen. Tawny's not dead. We'll find her, Fred reassured her. Yeah, she'll probably have fallen asleep over by the lake, Daphne suggested. At the lake, Heather and Johnny looked for Tawny. Well, she's not here, Heather said. Well, I don't know where she could be. Maybe the others found her somewhere. Let's head back, Johnny said. As he turned to go back towards the camp, Heather thought of swimming. Maybe Tawny had fell into the lake and was unconscious or something. She walked over to the dock and looked towards the water. Nothing. Then something else had caught Heather's eye. She got down on her knees and looked down at the dock. She looked with a grimace at the body tied to the dock by the hand. She lifted up the body's head out of the water, revealing open, lifeless eyes of Tawny. Johnny! Heather called. A few minutes later, when everyone had been told, they stood around the campfire site. This is insane. Who did this? Johnny said, pacing. I don't know, Ellen said. You and Velma were the last ones with Tawny. How do we know it wasn't you? Johnny said, pointing a finger at Ellen. Look, Johnny, it wasn't them. It was Jason, Wayne insisted. Okay, Johnny said softly, before walking close to Wayne. I've already told you before. Wayne, you obviously didn't get the first time, so let me say it again. Quit it with the Jason crap. A girl is dead, and you think some fake zombie from under this lake did it. Johnny yelled at Wayne's face. It's not fake, it's real, Wayne said. Shut up. Do you have any idea how serious this is? We may not be able to open our business because of all this, Johnny continued yelling. I want to know this right now. Who did this? Johnny, I'm not sure. It was one of us, man, Clark said. Yeah? Why not? Johnny asked sarcastically. 'Cause I've heard stories about this Jason guy actually coming back too. So, do you think it's for real? Maybe. Johnny couldn't believe this. Fine, alright, damn. Let's all go ahead before and believe that it's all because of this Jason guy doing this. Because Wayne here says so, he yelled. Wait, let's cool it for a minute, people, Velma said. Yeah, this is no time to lose our heads, Fred said. Look, it doesn't matter wherever this Jason guy is real or not. The point is, we've got all a mystery on our hands, Velma added. Right, so from here on out until we find this guy, we're all sticking together. No one goes off alone unless telling someone where they're going first, Fred said. Let's get each other find out who this murderer is. First, we should search everyone's cabins for clues as to who's doing this, Velma said. Hey, if you all guys want to stay here and get killed, well, that's your problem. I'm out of here, Wayne said. Good, I've had it with you and your stupid superstitions, Johnny said. Where are you going to go, Wayne? Heather asked. Away from here. Away from this town, for that matter, Wayne said. Okay, but Wayne, be on your way out of town and make sure to notify the police so they can send a unit here, Velma said. Later, as Wayne backed his car out onto the road, he gazed at everyone one last time. You guys are all fools, he said, before driving off. The others watched as he drove away. Well, he left in a hurry. I didn't even bother to take his stuff, Janie said to Shaggy. Maybe he'll come back with the cops, Eileen suggested. Okay, enough about Wayne. Let's spread it off and search for more clues, Fred said. A few minutes later, everyone had split up to try and find a connection between Tawny and the others' deaths. Fred and Daphne and Velma searched upon a couple of the cabins, but came out empty. Tom, Ellen, and Justin looked in the woods, along with Heather and Johnny. Clark searched around the camp alone. In another cabin, Shaggy and Scooby looked with Janie in her cabin. "What are we supposed to be finding exactly?" Janie asked. "Like a couple of clues," Shaggy said, as he looked in the drawers and dressers. "We don't find anything here, unless Clark wants something to hide." Shaggy nodded, and then looked around through Clark's drawers. Still nothing. "Nope, nothing here. Did you find anything under the bed, Scooby?" Shaggy asked. "Uh-huh," Scooby answered. "This is actually starting to get pretty spooky. What if we end up dead next?" Janie said. Shaggy tried to contain of how frightened he was when Janie just said that. "Like, it's okay, Janie. If anything goes wrong, Scooby and I will be here to protect you. Right, pal?" Shaggy said. "Rah!" Scooby said. "Thank you, Shaggy," Janie said softly. "No problem. No, really, you made me feel a lot better." She kissed Shaggy on the cheek. As he was a goner, his face was red and cherry, and he mumbled like a retarded kid. In the woods, as Johnny, Heather, Justin, and Tom looked, they couldn't find anything. "How is this like looking at a bunch of plants help gonna find us? Who's doing all this, Tommy?" Tommy said. "I don't know. Velma said that there's one day seen blood on a tree around here. Maybe it could be used as evidence or something," Johnny answered. "This is so stupid. Why don't we just wait for that thing to show up and just gang up on it?" Tom suggested. "Because we don't know when this guy will show up," Johnny said. "Where's Clark?" Heather asked. "He said he was going to go check out the sporting area," Tom said. Johnny then turned to leave. "Where are you going?" Heather asked. "I have to go to the bathroom real bad," he said. "Why don't you go behind a tree?" Justin said. "In front of a lady, Justin? That's just plain rude," Johnny called as he walked away. "What's up with him?" Tom asked the others. Over by the batting cages, Clark looked around, not really paying attention of what he was supposed to be doing. He turned on the light that lit up the batting cages, so it was sort of looked like a baseball and diamond in the middle of the game night. And being a baseball nut he really is, he walked over to the mound and picked up the metal bat. Clark had always wanted to be a professional baseball player. As he stood there, he swung a bat as if he was batting for the Dodgers. "Strike one!" He imitated the umpire's voice. He swung in the air again. "Strike two! The last pitch will determine the outcome of the entire game. Will Clark Andrews make it out of the park?" He said it again. Clark had no idea that he was standing in front of him, between the bushes in front of the batting cages, stood a figure holding a random baseball. "Here's the wind-up," Clark said, in allusion to the figure winding up. "The pitch!" As Clark swung the bat for the third time, he figure threw a ball as hard as he could, and it pedaled right straight into Clark's forehead. Crack. He was dead before he hit the floor.